Shashank Randev, thank you so much for taking time out, and it's a pleasure to host you. You are founding member of 100x VC Fund, and people regard it as the Y Combinator of India. It's a privilege to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking time out.
Thank you, Captain Shashank, and I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Sure. So actually, I've been quite involved, and I feel proud also the way the startup ecosystem has uh, come up in India. I mean, I remember I ordering my first cash on delivery book from Flipkart. That was the my first interaction with a startup per se, and that was back in 2010 when I was still in college. And from then and now it's a huge difference, and now we have an unicorn coming up every other day. So how do you feel? I mean, I'm sure you must have an experience with the Silicon Valley and other places. How do you feel about the startup ecosystem now and then?
No, I think we've come through a long phase, and it's been an evolution for India. A very good path actually we've taken. I remember when I passed out from MBA in 2009 from IMI in New Delhi, and it was not very fashionable those days to join a startup. Everybody used to pick up a corporate job, but I ended up becoming the founding member for VC Circle, which happened to be building a product for the venture capital and private equity industry. So that's when I started seeing a lot of changes in the ecosystem. I obviously learned a lot about what private equity funds do and venture capital funds do, and the likes of Flipkart and Snapdeal were just emerging, and the whole e-commerce story was beginning shaping up. We also had the likes of InMobi and multiple other companies, which really were becoming uh, you know, a benchmark for other aspiring entrepreneurs in colleges to kind of venture out and then join startups. And with the likes of Kunal Shah doing free charge, and then those businesses scaling, and now those founders becoming second time founders, right? So I think the in 2021, I think it's a good place for aspiring entrepreneurs, because today you're sitting on a legacy of at least one phase of evolution to learn from. Back in 2009 or 2008 or prior to that, there were very few use cases or case studies which we can say around startups, right? It was not the in thing. We were still trying to understand what needs to be done. So in my opinion, it's a fantastic time. You've got this number of startups increasing. You've got the access to capital with multiple funds being there, and you've got the support of the government in policies. They might not always be in depth right now, but it's an initiative taken by the government to set up incubation centers across India. And the overall ecosystem, I think private sector, public sector, government sector, all coming together, and with large corporates understanding the importance of working with startup. I think no better time than 2021 to start a startup and realize what potential you can offer to a country which has many problems to be solved, right? So great time.
That's right. But people around in the investor community, especially in the public markets, now that the likes of Zomato, Policybazaar, and Nykaa and all these are going public, people call, uh, uh, they believe we are in sort of a bubble. Do you agree with that?
See, every 10 years you'll have this cycle, and bubbles are of you know uh, it is all part and parcel of it. See, while if the progress is going very fast, then people say no, it's a bubble, right? When it's going slow, nothing is happening, look at the other countries, right? So it's always going to be that. I think what should be acknowledged is that it is happening, right? Companies are going IPO. The share prices are still doing well after they've gone IPO. There will be some correction here and there. Either way, it is a good indication कि आज India में IPOs तो हो रहे हैं, right? And that in itself is a huge thing, right? Today, a few weeks back, Freshwork, a 11-year-old startup, got listed in Nasdaq, right? It's a huge milestone. But if Zomato lists in India, that could be a bubble. But if Freshwork lists in Nasdaq, it's not. So there you'll always have these people who will have this opinion, and it's not wrong. But the point is, either way, it's a great time, right? Number of unicorns are increasing, which is a good indicator that there's an environment for consumers to buy and utilize products and services, right? Which is a good sign, right? If your GDP can grow with internal consumption from their population in within a country, like China built their entire economy, that's a very strong indicator, right? And that, as a function of that, agar aap IPO kar pa rahe ho and ja rahe ho, it is a very good sign. Not everything will be hunky dory. There will be some price correction. Obviously, the sentiment is very high, but even if there is, it's still better than what it was 10 years ago, right?
That's right. Because पहले तो लोगों का था बोल, especially people who invest in public markets like me, कि we are not getting chance to invest in the new economy stocks, and because we are the one who are using every day Ola, Zomato, Swiggy, and all these good companies. But the conundrum lies here in how to value these companies, because they are not showing uh, any profits as of now, but the only mantra is growth, growth, growth. So
you
as yeah,
one doesn't need to value, like as a retail investor, if you want to invest in a stock, you shouldn't be worrying about what is the valuation of the company. You should be worried about if the offering or solution is being consumed. So for instance, Zomato, right? You like to invest at the stock. But if you're talking about the non-listed market, right, not the
yeah.
public, the private ones, right? And that, I think, that is where the investors, like institutional investors like 100x and other VCs are coming in. Within that also, there are many companies, series A and series B type of growth fund, which are masters in valuation. We are not, and the reason for that is because we come in at the bottom of the pyramid, where we did not want to value companies, because we believe at the first check level, companies should not be worried about valuing themselves. They should be building a product which can be valued in the future. So
Right.
can we provide capital to help them build that and go to the next level? So hence our philosophy is not to value a company, but with this instrument which we use called
Yeah.
iSafe, it enables them to raise the money today within 10 to 15 days and value the company at the next round whenever the future investors coming in, and they will value the company based on the what they've achieved after our investment up to that second round. And that is the space which we are operating. We are not your traditional VC fund. We're saying we'll value the company at this and we'll come in at a pre-series. No, we're not that. Our objective is to kind of accelerate the process of pushing companies from a minimal viable product all the way to a product market fit, so
Right.
that it can be valued and it moves up. So hence, if you ask me how do you value companies, not the right person, because we don't value the companies, right?
That's right. I mean, I have studied your approach, and I myself was the first. I was applicant in the first batch for 100x VC. The process I have seen up close and personal. It's very thorough, and I mean, the best thing I like about you guys is you are replying and communicating at every step of the process. It's not like कि मैंने अपनी pitch भेज दी है और फिर मैं wait कर रहा हूँ, आया reply तो आया, नहीं आया तो नहीं. But you guys, I'm sure, मतलब that's your moat, कि you reply fast and then you communicate with the entrepreneur and founders and learn and engage. Basically you just don't let कि हाँ इतने लोगों ने apply कर दिया तो बस that's about it. So that's why I wanted to understand, you have been entrepreneur yourself. I mean, you were the founder member with the VC circle, and now you are on the other side. So what is your experience like? I mean, why do you think you came to the other side?
Why I came to the other side is because I mean, I'm an engineer by education, and
Yeah.
I worked with organizations like Zensar Technologies in Pune, NIT Limited in uh, Kalkaji, New Delhi, and then did my MBA thinking that I will rise up the hierarchy in corporate. But
Yeah.
I somehow lost interest in the whole corporate structure. It was not very exciting, and I would have gone back to the corporate structure, but it just happened that it was just luck and chance that this startup opportunity came to me, which gave me the opportunity to move back to Bombay, which is a place which I love,
Yeah.
and that's how I just took it up, right? And it just happened that the startup was, we were building a SaaS platform for the venture capital private equity industry. So from 2009 till 2016, I had massive learnings. I developed some very, very deep relations relationships with a lot of private equity funds managers. They were clients for 7-8 years, right? Interacting with them, learning from them, and then enhancing the product, which was a secondary and primary research platform,
Yeah.
giving them access to for deal discovery. That obviously excited me, right? And I also saw a lot of companies being funded. So the ecosystem was picking up, and then when and because of this vantage point I had of this startup, being a startup, and then a startup which is in the venture capital private equity space. And third, which was I think monumental for us again, it was just luck by chance, not, I mean, it just happened. We became the category leader in our startup, and we got acquired by News Corporation. So I ended up seeing the entire journey, right?
Right.
um, in a span of 6 years, and also seeing what the companies, how companies are getting funded. So my next obvious thing was, I don't want to work for another database company, right? I don't want to go to Bloomberg. I have picked up knowledge. I have some relations in the industry. Can I now start looking at the other side of deploying capital, right? And that was the motivation. And that's how I started my journey in 2016, where I joined, San Jose based fund, doing investments. Did 16 investments on their behalf in India across sectors, and that was a huge learning. Then I started doing angel investments, right? So I started in 2018, and now, and then we started 2019. We started 100x, right? So it's, I would not say it was planned. It was something which I just, whatever you feel comfortable with, right? So I did the
Right.
whole startup thing, and I felt comfortable, and then it just happened organically. I mean, if you ask me, like, did you, as soon as after engineering or after MBA, had you planned your life for the next thing? Certainly not, right? But I think it just made sense. And that's how the whole, investment side came up. I might have just started my own startup, I don't know, but it just
Mm.
happened.
That's right. I mean, people talk about second time entrepreneurs and uh, people transitioning to the other side. The perfect example is Kunal Shah. I mean, other than starting Cred, I saw some article in the newspaper. He is the second most active angel investor after, I think, Sequoia or some other fund.
Absolutely.
Because I think you guys understand better because you have been and you have lived through that journey, and that's why you can, I think, relate and have empathy with the founder.
Yes, I mean, yes, running a startup, operating it, and
Mhm.
managing teams is not easy.
Yeah.
But I think more than that, also the whole inherent value of what, if you're able to build a solution which has the power of being consumed by a billion people, or half a billion people in India, because it's a great consumption story in India, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is the opportunity. Another way of looking at it, Shashank, would be, uh, it's as simple as, and I tell this to everybody I meet, right? Ki what Silicon Valley was in the 1960s and what China was in 1980s is what India is today. Now we can only become China's and the Silicon Valleys only if we pull up our sleeves and work today. But the golden window opportunity has come. Initially we used to complain, no window ही नहीं आ रही, हम तो कुछ कर नहीं पा रहे. Now the thing is कि now is just a function of execution. And I feel the next decade is just an amazing decade to be in India, to leverage India, to for wealth creation and for global products being built out of India. And hence, we started 100x assuming, and we are fairly confident that our portfolio companies will see a bunch of unicorns emerging over the next 5 to 7 years, right? Which are offering core solutions to the Indian population.
Yeah, so that's what was my main agenda for this talk was how did 100x VC came about? I mean, what was the thought process? Was Y Combinator an inspiration, and how was the process about?
No, so Y Combinator is definitely a model which all of us, all five partners at 100x had looked at, right? And Sanjay had been and continues to be, right. He's been a very avid angel investor for the last 10 years, 130 plus portfolio investments. And then my experience at VC Circle gave me a great vantage point, and Ninad has been the ex CEO for Aptech and ex managing director for Computer Associates, so he understands the corporate side of it. And then Yagnesh was the operating partner of Besame Venture Partners. So he came from a VC background, and Vatsal had been part of Sanjay's family office. So he'd done 17 investments, out of which a few were from Y Combinator in the US, right? And obviously with all our vantage points, we obviously knew that there are many funds, many private equity funds, many venture capital funds, and the whole story in India was building up even at the bottom of the pyramid, incubation centers. But if you look at it from the incubation centers, companies were not moving from bottom of the pyramid to the next step. Sorry, my son is in the background, not able to kind of so
Not an issue.
so a lot of companies were not getting funded from the incubation to because a lot of pre-series A funds were like, let's track you for some time, you're not mature enough for, right? So there was a clear opportunity for doing providing seed capital to these companies which are not ideas, which have a product, but they don't have a go-to-market strategy, they don't have a set number of clients, they're not big enough for the first institutional check like a pre-series A check, right? And that is, and looking at the Y Combinator model, which is a discovery fund. So we now set out to create a discovery fund where we could invest and we could lead transactions which can be funded by the likes of Lightspeed, Chirate, which has been the case. They have funded our portfolio companies, and then increase the probability of companies which would otherwise we think would not have gotten a chance to rise up, right? Because 100x is not giving them seed capital, we are giving them the access to network. If it's a SaaS company, we're working with 300 plus CIOs, right? So we can accelerate the process of client acquisition, customer acquisition, right? Then getting them ready for the next pitch, right? A lot of founders make a lot of basic granular mistakes while pitching to investors. What not to do when you have to pitch to larger VCs, right? So all those nuances, it becomes a combination, and that's where we saw the opportunity, and that's how we started 100x, because nobody was doing this, and we still are the only fund in India which is wanting to do 100 investments per year and only through iSafe, and we invest within 10 to 15 days, right? So the speed is of essence over here. Otherwise we can be any other fund, right? But we don't want to. It requires a lot of hard work, yes, but therein lies the opportunity, right? If this happens, then the probability of companies raising Series A companies increases, Series A funding increases, right? And that's the space, and this is exactly what Y Combinator mastered, right? They have become a discovery fund for many funds within US who come there, and companies are able to discover their valuation, right? And this is what has started happening at 100x.vc, where we at a VC pitch day, there's a price discovery, there's a valuation discovery for these companies. They're more confident, investors are coming in, and rounds are getting oversubscribed within 10 days. Now that's the culture which India needs to have in 2021, when the founders are anyways attempting to build out, right? And that's how we started, and that's where we saw the opportunity.
That's right. I mean, as an entrepreneur or founder, the first check is the most, I would say, difficult in terms of because you don't really know what you're doing is being validated by, even if it is validated by customers, are investor going to have interest in this? So that is where I think you guys are doing a great job, and especially using those iSafe notes. I mean, that is another interesting and wonderful thing that you're doing. Can you just elaborate for the founders who are listening in, just idea how it helps them and how it helps you?
So it helps the founders because they're able to close the round quickly, they're able to receive the money very quickly. There is no valuation of the company. A typical fundraising requires a shareholders agreement, which can take between 60 to 65 days, right? Share allocation, ROC engagement, right? And iSafe doesn't require any of that. It doesn't value your company, it is for a future equity. You're able to receive money very quickly, and it helps you build a product rather than focusing on deciding a valuation, which happens in a shareholders agreement, right? So not only do the founders end up saving critical time, also the legal cost associated with shareholders, right? So from those aspects, it's a very simple process and helps you kind of move to the next level. Pricing rounds anyways is going to happen at a pre-series or a series.
Yeah.
So that's the advantage of iSafe.
That's great. And with that, I mean, I just wanted to delve upon, uh, according to you, I mean, you are on the investor side. Do every startup needs to raise a fund, or bootstrapping is a way to go? Because we have Zerodha one side, and then we have other Zomatos of the world. So, what do you feel? Does every startup needs to raise fund?
Not necessarily. So even if you look at globally and in India, there are many bootstrap companies, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of founders make it. But that being said, not every founder is equipped to build bootstrap businesses, right? Percentage wise, if you see historically data, maybe
Yeah.
10 to 15% companies have been bootstrapped and they've succeeded, right? Rest people still require access because they might not have the skill set for business development. They might not have skill set to expand in a new geography, right? So while bootstrapping is good, founders need to take an internal call that once they've reached a certain size, do they need smart capital with access to larger networks, geography expansion to grow, or they can continue with their model to kind of continuously expanding and not raising money, right?
Right.
Zerodhas, Zohos have worked brilliantly, but then there are great companies also like Flipkarts and many other promising
Yeah.
stories like InMobi and so many of these here, Oyo, right, who've gone
Yeah.
ahead and become very big, CoinDCX, but they've raised money, right?
Right.
So it's a question which the founders need to ask themselves. Every time they'll be questioning on their confidence once they reach a scale, right? आज 5 जन की team start करी है, we are good, yeah, let's go out for beers in the evening, morning maybe write the program. One day down the line, there are a team of 50 people. Now they're doing program management, delivery hua time pe, Friday ko report hui. Suddenly
Right.
now they're at a team size of 500 people. Jahan they have a secretary, somebody's reporting, quarterly report. So the structures keep evolving. If the founders are able to cope up with it, are they getting operationally pulled down, or are they still having the larger vision of expanding? And do they need external help in any of that? It really evolves at each stage. So
That's right. I
it's good
mean,
to be bootstrapped for 2 years and then you need external, and it can be okay to be bootstrapped for 10 years, and maybe then raise money. So
right.
really subjective.
Right. That's right. I mean, uh, what I feel is, when an investor comes on board, he is not just bringing in funds. And people like you, they bring in connections, they bring in knowledge, they bring in experience. They can guide you, and an investor with so much skin in the game, literally, it's a win-win for both founder and investor, I guess.
No, and that is what I said, right? Because the kind of stage we're coming in, there is no other option but to ensure that the startups are able to reach a product market fit. Only then will
Yeah.
they be able to raise. See, the gap is always about from the incubation center moving to a pre-series A, right? If we are
Yeah.
coming in between, have you made ensured that the company has reached a product market fit so that it has the right metrics for the VC growth stage VC to come in, right? And
Right.
hence it has to be a very hands-on approach at our end.
Yeah. And coming on to the process, I mean, once a startup applies, what is the thought process you guys have at 100x VC to select a startup? I mean, you have mentioned that it should have a basic product, and you don't invest in ideas. Uh, so, what process? I mean, are you looking at the team per se, or the product, or is it a combination of all those things?
It's a combination of all those things because we will look at the founding team as the first beginning point.
Right.
We look for complementary skill sets by the founders, and we want to see how they can continue building a scalable product. So that's one criteria of evaluation to begin with. Second, obviously, is the market opportunity. How big is the opportunity in our opinion and in the founder's opinion, right?
Right.
And then obviously their business model, is it scalable enough? Can it be scaled in a different model? And fourth is, I think, somehow defining or somehow looking at from a perspective of whether there is a moat or there is a unique IP which the business has built on. Many businesses don't have IPs, right? But they have
Yeah.
some unfair advantage of building a moat. So these are the four broader points which we look at to begin with. Obviously, then once we've decided to kind of engage, we are looking at, the financial discipline, the mindset of the founder. How is their burn rate? Many other things.
Yeah, but you do that all that process within a span of 2-3 weeks, I guess.
Yes, we try and wrap it up. So we if we don't like a company, we inform them immediately that this is not fitting our criteria.
Right.
And if we are interested, then we want to move fast, because as I mentioned, right,
Yeah.
everything these are young companies, right? They need support, right? If I 60-day evaluation, there's no point. They need
Right.
small capital to build up to for the next 60-80 days, right?
Yeah.
So we believe that the process has to come through within 2 weeks, right? If you're funding, then the money has to come in within 2 weeks to the founders, right? So decision making has to be very, very quick.
That's right. And settle this debate for us. I mean, a lot of people talk about that there is a preference for people who are passed out from IIT or the IIM. Is it really a thing, or some place it is just a bias that people have?
So, there is no denying that, kids from IIT, students from IITs, IIT alumni, marquee institutes build out great products and have the vision, and they have been successful. That being said, tier two colleges students are seeing great traction. They are now building scalable solutions also, and they've been funded. So at least, we funded many companies which are non-IIT. We funded IIT and BITS Pilani kids also, right? But the only difference which is in terms of determination, right? Which many people said, no, IIT is good, so they will do very well. That has changed right now. And many VCs are not looking at from that perspective, right? Many VCs are looking at companies not only from the institute perspective, but in terms of what they're building, and have they been able to create a stickiness, and can they continue to scale, right? Can be from an IIT, it can be from a BITS Pilani, it can be from any other college, regional college, anything like that.
Right. I think this whole ecosystem and processes are also evolving. I think earlier people were risk averse, and now people are more pragmatic and thinking like it's not just people from IITs and IIMs who are building great product companies. Now there are people who are coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities, as you said, and now things are better than they were before.
They are much better. You've got, see, also one more thing, Shashank, you need to appreciate is the advent of incubation centers in non-IITs also, right? So the culture of entrepreneurship is picking up in institutes where founders were not getting funded, right? And they did not have the experience of building. Or see, incubation centers and e-cells were always there in larger IITs, have been there, right? It's only a recent function that tier two colleges have started getting Atal incubation centers. So they are now understanding that mindset and culture. They're coming up with mature solutions and are appreciating the journey of entrepreneurship. And hence, as a function of that, they're automatically building or working on problems which resonate with VCs, right? And then there's the argument of कि आप हमें fund करोगे क्योंकि हम IIT नहीं है, and all that is goes out of the window, because now everybody is working on building something which is impactful and sustainable. So that difference has come in.
That's right. And today also I was reading the India stack is really helping people. The Geo, advent of Geo, then UPI, and all this stuff make it easier, which were earlier, I think, were not easily possible.
Correct.
So
correct. Absolutely right. The whole India stack has really upped up the game. The advent of UPI and integration for fintech companies. There are new regulations which are coming up by RBI. All is making, or at least pushing, entrepreneurs in multiple directions to build out solutions. So it's a great opportunity.
Wonderful times to be in. So coming on to your fund, I'm sure there will be a lot of unicorns coming out of it. But investors generally get asked is, what is one anti-portfolio company that you have that you missed out on or you regret?
So, I mean, I can't say so much on the fund side, because right now, I mean, we're still,
In your
looking at
personal
the journey.
capacity or overall?
In my personal capacity, I think I in 2018, I was looking at a company and I wrote an article in Mint also on the same. It was a company called Buzo.ai, Buzzoi, O.ai. And I was trying to lead the round with one of the angel networks, but after 4 or 5 months of engagement, and the founders were great. Founders had built out a business earlier, sold it to Naukri, and somehow I didn't get the confidence for them to sell their current solution. So I kind of backed out and I didn't go ahead. But within 18 months, Haptic acquired them for a pretty interesting valuation, right? So I missed out on that. And my learning from that experience was anti-portfolio is that some founders build businesses for scale and some founders build it for larger corporations to acquire. There is no harm in that.
Right.
We are still evolving as an ecosystem. There could be a larger problem being solved by the likes of Haptic, which this company was able to solve, right? So there's a value in that. And as an investor, I realized that I can't only be looking at companies from that mindset. Again, this is a very, it's not applicable in every company which we look at, but in some companies, it could be the case. So I lost out on that. I could have made some money, in 1.5 years. But again, one learns.
Part of the game. And
Part of the game.
I also wanted to understand, see, as a public market investor, I build my portfolio based on companies, like as Charlie Munger says, tell me the place where I am going to die and I'll not go there. So I, based on that philosophy, I invest in companies, those who are likely going to be thriving or not going out of business after, let's say, 10 years, 15 years. What does thought process of a startup, early stage, even seed stage investor goes on? How do you go about building your portfolio or for the
So,
fund?
there is the level of uncertainty and the comfort of being in the level of uncertainty has to be very high for early stage investors. By the time a company, and I'm not a listed person, I don't understand shares. I've never invested in shares. My wife does something, but I don't understand the listed space, and neither do I have any personal portfolio. My only understanding comes from startups, and even my personal capital as an asset class, I only invest in startups. Now, the reason, what I've realized from my other partners, I've learned every day, we learn from each other, and Sanjay, Nanad, Yagnesh, and the other multiple VC funds I've worked with over the last 10 years, right? As either on the client side, what I've seen is the level, the comfort which you need to develop in being fluid and walking into a situation which is ambiguous, right? And then building something out of it which giving it a direction, right? So a very, very crude example is either you are the value of a pot once it is being sold, and you can put a price tag to it, and how many units you can sell, or you are in the process of creating that pot and you know how big or small it can become and what price it can command, right? So the early stage investment is more of pottery building, not
Right.
on the pottery selling side, right? Again, might this I just came to a mind, I'm saying, maybe not the right analogy, but what I'm
No,
trying to
no.
explain is that it's a very fluid state of affairs. So
Right.
hence, investors, either funds or retail investors, need to understand it's a very risky asset class, right? So you need to walk into it knowing that it is risky, but uh, because it's very risky, the probability of higher gains is also very, very high, right?
Right.
So if you do systematic building process, which most of the institutional investors have experienced now because they've been doing it for many years, they understand patterns, they understand sectors, and there are few there's systematic ways of how to ensure a company is growing, right? Month on month growth,
Right.
15% growth, all those metrics can be worked towards if you give guidance, right? And therein lies the process of giving shape to the pot, right? But sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes the team
Yeah.
is not, you've not been able to read the team properly, so the pot will crumble because the ingredient
Right.
of the mud, everything was wrong, and those things happen, right? So, but for an early stage investor, going with the mindset that you are building a pot of mud where you're experimenting with the ingredients as opposed to selling a ready-made pot,
Yeah.
they need to be aware of the volatility and ambiguity which comes with it. And many investors I've seen enjoy that process
Right.
of kind of making something out and then figuring out, and it just clicks, right? So that's, I think, how to be very, very candid with you. That is what it is. There is no fixed answer to it. No, we know everything about this startup. हमें मालूम है, nothing like that. It's a
Right.
process, day in and day out work. And if investors are comfortable with that, then it works.
That's right. I mean, very elaborate answer that you gave. I'm sure a lot of people will understand the nitty-gritty. I mean, it's not that easy. You see people making crores and crores, but the actual reality is you have to see the returns on a portfolio level. So I wanted to understand that people, youngsters who are coming into money either by the way of ESOPs getting to them. I mean, they have the resources, financial resources. Now they want to deploy them as an angel. So what is the advice that you want to give them?
So we are Indians at the end of the day, right? And frugality comes to our mind. So first and foremost is like, if you have 100 rupees, first save 90 rupees as your emergency kitty, right? Whether it's
That's
FD
right.
or whatever, right? That should always be there. Buy yourself a medical policy for your family, for any medical event. Once all of that is sorted, right? And you've assigned all of that, medical and family and your savings. And then after all of 90% of that, when 10% remains after doing all that, is experimental capital you should work with. And out of that 10% or 10 rupees, right, 5 should be in your various, you can't park everything in a startup, right? So advice is, you got 100 rupees as saving, 90 rupees should be a hard saving for your family and everything. 10 rupees should be experimental, that you doesn't pinch you if you lose it. And even in that, you have to look at low volatility assets and high volatility assets, right? So maybe park 5 rupees in mutual funds, like whatever, right? And also stocks or whatever, go with that. Maybe cryptocurrencies also now, experiment with that. And then look at startups also. So I'm a huge, I've invested in cryptocurrencies. I don't fully understand, and it's very volatile, but I've assigned a portion of money to experiment with that, right? And that is how the new entrepreneurs, or who have generated some amount of wealth, should work toward. Don't get bogged down by the news ki yaar wo bhi kar raha hai, main bhi karta hu. My sincere advice is to the new founders who created new wealth is, get your first personal financial matters in place, assign some portion as experimental capital, and within that experimental capital, experiment with multiple assets. It's a great time to be investing in cryptocurrencies. At least Ethereum is really picking up. Bitcoin has been there, become expensive. Ethereum went from $1,600 to $4,200 within 6 months. It's become valid because of the developer community utilizing it. There are multiple other coins coming up, which I don't understand, but there is some logic to it also. Experiment with that. But I would recommend that's how one should look at it.
Basically, follow personal finance 101, diversify, and
diversify. Correct.
Yeah, make sure you have enough for a rainy day, and then insurance and everything in place, and then move on to this, because it is a risky asset class.
It is a risky, and then once you get small wins, right, you get more confident, you understand, you learn from it. तो आज एक में थोड़ा पैसा बना, you like, चलो आज मैं 2 में डालता हूँ, फिर 2 में से एक नहीं हुआ, तो you like, ठीक है, I have made, so your principal money, your all those mathematics comes into picture. Hence, that's my advice. Once you start making returns on every investment, then you're like, okay, now I want to assign 50 rupees, right? So that you have to slowly dive into the process.
That's right. Great advice. And before we go, I just wanted to ask you what advice or suggestions that you have for the founders, young founders, or the people who want to start the company. What is the core focus should be for them?
So, if you're starting something, I think the core focus should be, and is, what is the problem you're solving? And is there a stickiness on the solution which you've created? That is it. If somebody, आपके चाचा के ताए के लड़के के किसी को funding को like, even I want to start an e-commerce company, that approach is wrong, and I've seen many founders do that. अरे वो उसने को तो e-commerce को company को funding मिल गया, हम भी कर लेते हैं. That mindset नहीं. genuinely feel that, yeah, I was working in a company and there was a problem in the HR tech uh, process. So I have now created my own HR tech company, and I feel there is a problem by the HR people and the hiring people, and this is a solution which we can sell. I've seen those businesses, and that's a great story, right? So so first and foremost, if you're starting something, don't start because every company is getting funded. Start because there you've identified a problem and you genuinely believe, and you believe it to that extent that you can convince investors, because we learn from founders, right? We
Yeah.
don't know about the opportunity, you're going to
Yeah.
convince us, right? So you are confident that, yeah, boss, this is a problem which has a solution, and I have a solution for the next 10 years, which is 10 to 100% per month growth, right? And I'm confident about that, right? And so whenever you start a startup, you need to be confident about what you're building and selling. That has to be the core thing. You cannot compare yourself कि यार I'm doing a Me Too, there's another e-commerce platform, हम भी कर लेते हैं, हम यहाँ से कर लेते हैं, बॉम्बे से कर लेते हैं, right? So I've seen a lot of those startups, right? Don't do that. Also, a lot of startups end up building lifestyle businesses, right? So they think that let me make it's not a great example to give, but let me make let me source honeys from Shimla, brand laga ke aaya, let me sell it, right? It's a great business, no doubt, but it's not a VC fundable business, right? Anybody can come in, anybody can do it. It's a lifestyle business you're building. Helps you kind of create a small community. When you're building a scalable business, are the businesses which VCs want to invest in, right? I've created my own organic vegetable based supplements. And I've got this, and I want to create a brand within this and fight against the pharma companies, and I have built it out, and this is my price is low. I have Gen Z taking it at this age, right? Then people, some investor will, okay, this is interesting, and like, I'm growing at this pace, I'm selling so many units. That clarity needs to be there. So that's my only recommendation to the founders, that be very clear. And there is no reason why you should not be clear, because today everything is on YouTube, a lot of free content,
Right.
Great folks like yourself, Shashank, doing podcasts, bringing investors, asking questions, making it accessible to entrepreneurs. All these things were not there for us guys 10-15 years ago, right? तो आज से अच्छा टाइम तो है नहीं फाउंडर्स के पास. अगर आज भी वो क्वेश्चन पूछे कि क्या करना है, then problem lies with them then.
Right.
And everything is
Exactly.
is there.
To summarize, basically you are saying you should have a good problem to solve at first. You should have a solution to it that works, and it should be sticky, and there should be a potential for growth.
Correct.
That's
Absolutely.
right. And do you see any areas that are not yet penetrated? Because e-commerce and everything, food delivery is done. I don't think any innovation would come in.
No, I think a lot of areas. I think agri-tech is a great. We've invested in a few agri-tech companies, and I think that opportunity is really scaling up. Farmers are becoming more digitized and digital, appreciate the process. So newer IoT based innovations are coming in. Industry 4.0, small medium enterprises and small medium manufacturing businesses have now the opportunity to automate, and they were and automation from two. One is their machines, purani machines getting automated. The other is they themselves becoming more savvy in terms of posting on social media and creating awareness of their offerings, right? That piece has come in. There's a huge opportunity within the electric vehicle space, not manufacturing also, but just operating, running, and managing a SaaS platform which collates information around that. There's a huge opportunity within B2B enterprise companies, right? A lot of Indian companies, Infosys ho gaya aapka, or international companies like large MNCs have had displacement of employees, right? And India, we've seen a lot of Indian founders building up solutions products, not only for Indian companies but for global companies, which are able to manage larger teams from home, during this work from home culture. So everything, in my opinion, is up for grabs for India, right? Even e-commerce. We funded an e-commerce company which is doing vertical e-commerce. They built a healthcare commerce platform. You get all healthcare products over there, right? So there it becomes one point shop for many healthcare, and we've gone ahead and invested in them. It was started by the ex Flipkart employees, right? So they had an understanding of that. So abhi bhi, there is enough opportunity. There are enough problems to be addressed. There's enough population which is wanting, has become aspirational in tier 2, tier 3 cities. You've got access to internet. They're at the same pace at tier 1 kids, right? They have nothing less, right? In fact, they have more time and peace compared to city guys, right? So the opportunity is immense, and hence every sector is open, in my opinion, whether it's agri-tech, it's healthcare, health tech, data as a service, enterprise software, deep tech, everything, in my opinion, is open. Fintech, I think, in my opinion, is the next level, where fintech is no longer going to be vertical. It is going to be horizontal. Any sector will have a fintech play. So India will be the biggest market for fintech solutions, because the consumption is just massive. So we are all doors open from every side, every
Right.
sector.
That's right. I mean, best time to be in, best resources that you can. Everything is up for grabs. It's just you have to work hard, and there's no replacement for hard work.
No replacement for hardware, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Shashank, for coming on the Captain's podcast and sharing so candidly with us the thought process of an investor and what you look in as in an entrepreneur or a founder to invest in. Thank you so
No,
much.
thanks, Captain Shashank, for inviting me, and looking forward to meeting you in person sometime soon.
Sure, sure. I'll be coming over to Bombay soon, so we'll catch up there. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank
Goodbye.
you.